most unforgettable sponge.
Where the Furnicas is SpongeBob?
Forgot everything.
Are you talking to me?
Coming this October to Nick.
Oh yes, SpongeBob SquarePants. A show that people used to think stopped being good, and now people still think that. One of the reasons why I stopped making SpongeBob videos for a while is because I started to question if the show is going to go through another dark age. But if anything, it's going through a mid-era, because I find most of the newer episodes be kind of mediocre to kind of alright. Kind of like post-movie era, or more specifically, Season 5, aka the most forgettable season of SpongeBob. Yes, sure, there's some infamous episodes in that season, like the Love to Patty and Atlantis SquarePants, but there's also some mid-forgettable episodes, like Bucket Sweet Bucket and SpongeBob vs. the Patty Gadgets, which I tend to forget until my annual rewatch of Season 5. But one of these episodes I tend to forget about sometimes is What Happened with SpongeBob, or as I like to call it,
WhoBob WhatPants!
which was a SpongeBob special that a commentator on my worst SpongeBob special video, Action Man 9451, commented, said that I left out. Honestly, I didn't include it in that video because I thought it wasn't really that bad. Now, after a while of making these videos, does this opinion still hold some weight? I'm starting to question if this episode should have been included from the very beginning. Today I'm going to see if I should have included this in my worst SpongeBob specials video, or if I was right to not put it in that video in the first place. Has my opinions over time changed for the better or changed for the worst? Well, let's find out. The episode starts with SpongeBob waking up to start his day. And for some reason in this episode only, every single time he greets his friends, he accidentally messes up stuff because for some other reason, all of his friends are unnecessarily mean to him in this episode.
Hey Patrick, how goes it?
Well, it was going great until you showed up.
Don't you ever wake me from my beauty sleep! Do you understand?
WhoBob! Mr. Krabs! Krabs, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Although we've only known each other a short time, I love you.
And call him
Idiot boy!
causing SpongeBob to run away from home, because I guess Idiot Boy is Nickelodeon version of calling someone a dumbass bitch-ass motherfucker. And while he's leaving the Bikini Bottom, some homeless people scared the shit out of him, causing him to fall down a cliff and hit his head so hard that he pretty much gets amnesia. Yeah, it's that kind of episode. The minor long fall caused him to forget his whole personality. Then Klaus from American Dad finds him. And yes, I know, this is just Harold in different clothes, but he's literally voiced by D. Bradley Baker doing his Klaus voice.
Oh, we thought you were taking a dirt nap. Penis on a brick and throw it through her family's living room. Isn't this your name?
Go and begin your life.
You don't know your name?
I think I'm crackering up.
So I'm just gonna call him Klaus, because it just makes much more sense. Anyways, Klaus tells him that his name is Cheesehead Brown Pants, so him and his wife can keep his clothes, because Klaus is an asshole, like how he is in American Dad. So Cheesehead felt any of his shit, goes to New Cope City, while his friends are starting to notice that he is gone, and they find out that he's never gonna come back, causing the town to go into an apocalyptic doomsday hell, because without SpongeBob at the Krusty Krab, the customers start to lose their minds with the lack of Krabby Patties, because at this point, Krabby Patties are just as addictive as cocaine. SpongeBob, Sandy, and Mr. Krabs decide that they want to find SpongeBob so they can apologize and bring him back. But unfortunately for them, Squidward destroys the device that was able to track down SpongeBob because he doesn't want SpongeBob back, even though his best friends, plus Mr. Krabs, really miss him and are worried that something bad might happen to him. Because Squidward during the post-movie era and Dark Age eras doesn't have sympathy and has never seen an episode of My Name is Earl. And if you haven't seen an episode of My Name is Earl, give it a watch, it's really good. I feel like I only want to send the script because I've been watching too much My Name is Earl. So Mr. Krabs encouraged Squidward to help him by promising that he'll give him a fancy egg if he helps Sandy and Patrick find SpongeBob. So they end up tracking him down at New Cope City, where they discover that SpongeBob is now the mayor and goes by the name Cheesehead Brown Pants. And if you're wondering how Cheesehead became the mayor of New Cope, well, it's simple. It's because of Bubbles. Yeah, that's right. It's because of damn Bubbles. I cannot keep a straight face with this one, can I? Pretty much in New Cope, the people there are scared of Bubbles. And when Cheesehead was looking for a job, he would use Bubbles to help him get work. Because the only thing that he had on his possession and knew what to do was and every time he blew bubbles, the fish around him would freak out like they saw a ghost. Then at nighttime, when he wanted to blow up some bubbles, an anti-bubble gang, named the Bubble Puppy Boys, show up to beat the shit out of Cheesehead. And Cheesehead uses his bubble blowing skills to outrun the whole bubble popping gang. And when they catch up to him, Cheesy goes and traps him in a giant bubble, freeing the city of this anti-bubble gang, making everyone free to blow up bubbles again.
Thank you, Cheese Boy!
What an amazing gift Cheese Boy has given us!
Actually, it's Cheesehead.
The mayor pulls up the dang Cheesehead and makes him the new mayor of New Cope City, which is sus, but makes sense because the politicians in this show are very stupid. Now that Cheesehead is mayor, he plans to make New Cope a better place for bubble blowing. Then Sandy and Patrick try to talk and apologize to him, but Cheesehead tells him that he doesn't remember who they are because he has amnesia. Sandy asks him to come back with them to the Bikini Bottom so he can remember who he was. But Cheesehead does not want to go with him because again, he is a mayor and actually gives a shit about the people he governs. So he leaves to go to a meeting. And it turns out that Squidward limo-jacked the limo so he can bring Cheesehead to Krabs so he can get his fancy egg. When they get back to the Krusty Krab and that Cheesehead learned about his old life, Cheesehead is not interested in returning as SpongeBob because like any sane person in this scenario would much rather be a political leader than work for a Crush Race's cheapskate. So he decides to leave, and when Squidward gets his egg, he slips on SpongeBob's spatula and the egg hits him in the head, causing him to remember that he is indeed SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah, just a bit of a headache, Sandy.
Hey, I remember this place!
But unfortunately for his friends and boss, SpongeBob decides to stick with his decision because SpongeBob has common sense. Then, as he's leaving, a news report appears with the city of New Cope covered in bubbles due to SpongeBob's absence.
Newly enacted bubble policy.
Who wants to be a dumb old mayor when you're the best fry cook in town? Looks like I'm back in Bikini Bottom forever.
My name is Squidward.
Yeah, that's right. That's literally how it ends. This, along with a bunch of other shit that happens in this episode, pisses me the hell off. I know they have to keep the status quo and have SpongeBob remember everyone so he can go back to being Sandy and Patrick's best friend in the Krusty Krab's fry cook, but I feel like they didn't deserve to have SpongeBob back because all the problems caused weren't fully his fault, except for breaking Gary's cell. But in Gary's defense, he is a snail and he's just pissed that his home is gone. At least after SpongeBob leaves, he's seen wearing a new show, meaning that at some point off screen, SpongeBob brought a new show for Gary and didn't put it on him because of how mad Gary was. And I like to think that after seeing SpongeBob leave, Gary started to come to his senses and puts on the new show and eats all the snail food to make his sadness of his Papa Bug never coming back go away. Man, to be honest, that was a bit too deep, man. I didn't even mean to make that deep. As for everyone else, the mailman should have paid attention to where he was going. Patrick should have put his cake in a box. Sandy could have made her robot waterproof because she she lives underwater and her dome might leak or break someday. So it makes sense for her to make all of her robots and inventions waterproof. As for Mr. Krabs, he should have put a left for sign on the floor of the kitchen so SpongeBob would have never slipped and fell. And then there's Squidward. Freaking Squidward. Hell, he was the worst of all because for the whole episode, he acts like a and is honestly more annoying in this episode than SpongeBob is. The man starts off his first scene in the episode screaming at SpongeBob for just knocking on his door. And then when SpongeBob's gone missing, he literally laughed while Spongy's best friends are crying and worried about the little guy. Then he destroys the device that could help them track him down. Then after getting incentivized by a giant egg to find him, he kidnaps him, causing Nuke Help City to be a mess. Yeah, I know Sandy and Patrick were also in the limo, but they were probably just scared on the inside because for all we know, when he went to steal the limo, he possibly went and killed someone so he can get that damn egg, which would be for nothing anyways because by the end, Cheesehead would become SpongeBob again, and regardless, Squidward would have the audacity to feel sad that SpongeBob's back even though the chaos that he caused made SpongeBob fear for his life and not want to take accountability for his actions because he was kidnapped by Squidward and couldn't be there to stop it, which makes all of that Squidward's fault. Squidward's fault. Squidward's fault. Squidward's fault. Squidward's fault. Honestly, if the writers made Squidward less of an asshole and made him realize that he needs SpongeBob in his life to make it interesting, the story would have been 10 times better because Squidward wouldn't cause the destruction of a whole ass city, which made SpongeBob scared for his life. And SpongeBob in the beginning was mildly annoying, but overall, he was 10 times less annoying than Squidward and a bit more likable than Squidward. I really hate episodes that try to frame SpongeBob as the annoying, but have Squidward scream and whine the whole time, which is a problem I tend to have with some of these episodes from the post-movie and Dark Age eras. I hate these Squidward acts like an annoying episodes just as much as the Squidward torture episodes, mostly because they tend to go too far by making him unlikable or torturing him by having him be screwed over by the universe for just existing or for wanting some peace and quiet, which gets more and more annoying as I get older and want to have alone time from younger relatives that won't leave me alone when I need to mellow out after a long day of doing shit with boxes and envelopes. As for the bubble popping boys and the whole thing about them not liking Bubbles and enforcing their views on Bubbles on the people of New Kelp is a bit stupid, but I do find it very funny that this gang of tough guys don't like Bubbles. And I also found everyone's reactions to Cheesehead beats the bubble popping boys and becoming mayor much more hilarious than it already is. In the worst SpongeBob special video, I falsely said that you can't make a good story if it's driven by Bubbles, because as this kind person in the comments would later point out to me, Bubble Stand exists, and I love Bubble Stand, and I somehow forgot its existence while making that ranking, along with the fact that this episode also has Bubbles play a big role in the story, and that this episode, along with Bubble Stand, do a good job of using Bubbles to help advance the story, and not lazily using them as a plot device to make a already bad and undercooked story worse, like Atlantis SquarePants. But the Bubbles here were seen as an oppressed hobby or tool that was just hated on for no real reason, until the end where everyone treats Bubbles as a metaphor for cigarettes. Honestly, there's some episodes where I don't mind this allegory, but here it just makes no sense half the time, because here the bubbles were used to help SpongeBob to do tasks while also being a relaxing thing to do while he's down the dumps, which makes no sense for it to be a metaphor for cigarettes. If anything, it could be a metaphor for marijuana, but even then that's a bit of a stretch. Honestly, until the ending, this episode did such a good job using Bubbles, but the ending just feels rushed as hell and gave me SquarePants vibes, because it feels like the writers just needed a way to end the special without it looking like a finale to satisfy executives and young fans. Honestly, I feel like a way to make this episode better is to have Plankton in it as a villain, because I think an episode about him wiping SpongeBob's memories after some conflicts with his friends as a way way to have his friends regret being mad at him, causing them to look for Spongy Boy, and at that point try to cause some minor inconveniences for them until they force him to take them to SpongeBob, who would have became the mayor of New Cup City regardless, and get him to regain his memory so they can apologize, which would be a better ending for the episode and doesn't ruin the episode's use of What's Plankton being there to cause conflict makes the episode have more stakes. Because if Plankton was in the episode and caused SpongeBob to leave and lose his memories, he would most likely go back to Bikini Bottom just to spite him, and that Squidward would have told him that he loves him and appreciates his friendship instead of being a dick like how he is in the actual episode. Hell, at this point, I should try to rewrite this episode because I genuinely like the idea of Plankton getting SpongeBob amnesia and Plankton being surprised that SpongeBob is a mayor of a major city. Honestly, I find the episode to be decent at best and mediocre at worst depending on the day. Most because this episode is both funny and unbearable to watch depending on how you view it. It's fun to watch if you want to see scenes of Spongy and New Cope, and again, the beginning of the episode is just everyone hating on SpongeBob for minor shit that wasn't entirely his fault. So I guess I have to give it a 2.5 out of 5. And I'm sorry that this dumbass was too forgiving to this goddamn episode. Positive for Mandan, I didn't see the many flaws this episode had. I was just in denial because I used to like watching this episode when it used to come on Nickelodeon when I was a kid. But sometimes you need to let that nostalgia go, and sometimes you gotta see stuff from your childhood like how it really is. Meaning that I can accept this episode isn't as good as I think it was when I was young.
Honestly, I would just recommend if you watch the book that was based on this episode instead of watching the actual episode, just to save your sanity. Yeah, that's right, I actually bought this. I'm a SpongeBob fan on the internet. I have worse regrets than this.
The book version is actually much better, mostly because the episode story works the most as a goofy little bedtime story that your mom would tell you when you were 6, than a half-baked double-length special. Honestly, even the worst SpongeBob episodes could work as a bedtime story when you think about it. I still have my child copies of The Great Escape and Mr. Fancy Pants, and I reread them for this video to see if my theory about bad SpongeBob episodes making good bedtime stories is true. And yeah, without filler and terrible writing, these episodes could work as good as bedtime stories to tell children. But unfortunately, growing up enjoying these two stories increases the disappointment when you realize that the episodes these stories were based on weren't as good as the bedtime stories they used to read every night for your mom. Which I know is oddly specific, but let's be real, you're not a real SpongeBob fan unless you had 3 or 4 of these books like how I did.
Grab your guppies and head for the reefs. Panic! It's the attack of the SpongeBob DVDs.
DVD release is actually pretty good. The menus look nice, and the episode selection is alright. I'm not a fan of the Krabby Patty Band episode, mostly because I think the old lady had a point about the weird effect of Krabby Patties. I do unironically like the Krabby Patty song though. And Goo Goo Gas just gave me the vibe that Nickelodeon forced the writers to make an episode that turns the SpongeBob characters into babies for promos.
Everyone say your ABCs! Now when you turn into babies, you stay baby!
And I like the original storyboard version of What Happened to SpongeBob and the What If SpongeBob Were Gone shorts as bonuses. But I also feel like Squidward also should have gotten his own What If short, because it's just strange to me that they gave everyone but him one. Mostly because I think it would have been fun to see him celebrate, and if something bad happens to him, he's like, yep, I guess I need SpongeBob back. Because we know from episodes like Squidville and Sponge Cano that the squid needs a sponge in his life. And it definitely shows that the writers from this time just didn't like Squidward for some reason, and I think they still don't like him. But that doesn't mean he should be left out of stuff like this. Same thing with Plankton, because I genuinely think it'll be hilarious if Plankton got his own What If SpongeBob Was Gone short, despite him not appearing in the episode. But it still would have been fun though. Still would have been funny to see though. Other than that, I enjoyed this release, and I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. Because it could have been worse, and most of the bonus episodes and special features made up for the DVD's namesake being mid.
Thank you all for watching, I appreciate you all, and in the next video, one of the next videos, another SpongeBob episode I'm going to talk about is also bad. and very infamous, and I'm going to give you a clue what it is. It's do with that if you will.
Also, I forgot to shout out Action Man 9451 for leaving a comment that would lead to this video. Shout out to you and thank you for your comments.
Plus comment any other SpongeBob or hell, even like Nickelodeon shows in general. Other than SpongeBob, I'm planning to do a bunch of different shows right now, so make sure to keep that in mind. A bit more varieties coming. So make sure to keep yourselves on the edge of your seats and make sure to have that nice Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, whatever the hell you drink while you're watching these, right by your side. As I come back once every month, 2 if you're lucky, to talk about these shows. That's right, it's a whole new promise, a whole new world of promises. As I'm trying so desperately to prove to myself that I'm not irrelevant, even though I was kind of always relevant before. This has been Alberto, and